If you've been hanging around right-wing Twitter, I know that you've seen this TikTok. Gosh, this sounds like how I start almost every video nowadays. Twitter and TikTok. We truly are in the decline. Oh well, let's watch it.
Good morning, y'all. Quick update on the house, because I've been pretty terrible about giving y'all these. We took a little break for noodling season and to put out boxes. Now that it's dried in, we can do it at our own pace. But here she is. We're gonna stain all that wood a darker brown, and the shutters, when we get that on, we'll have handrails, of course. There's the carport over there. Quick run through. All these trusses are gonna be exposed, and we're gonna have old tin in the ceiling. Got Daddy and Paul up there working on a wall we're gonna put up for the upstairs office. And we got Def Leppard playing in the background, of course. Back porch, beautiful view. And then the walkway to the carport. I'll try to be better about these, but you can also use my code HANNAH25 for 25% off We the People holsters. Hope y'all have a good one.
I don't really know who this woman is. Her name's Hannah Barron. She seems to be some type of TikTok influencer based on her ad spot at the end. But this is just a really normal video, isn't it? She's building a house and she's giving her fans an update on it. This went viral on Twitter with the caption, "This accent needs to be illegal, and women should be banned from doing manual labor like this. There is nothing feminine about American women. American women are literally men." The person giving this white hot take is Samira Khan. A quick flip through her online presence shows that she's kind of cut from the same cloth as Ann Coulter. She's very pro-Trump, very anti-globalist, and very much of the opinion that America's geopolitical enemies, Russia and China, are not actually enemies. Rather, they're authoritarian states that America should emulate. The real enemy, in her view, are the Democrats at home. She's also very feminine, but in a neo-traditionalist way. There's no way this woman would ever be a trad wife, but she's no tomboy either. She seems to have the opinion that being a trophy wife to a high-status man is the ultimate accomplishment for a woman. There's no actual traditionalism here. There's no kids, no wifely duties, nothing like that. But she's also not some sort of progressive, sexually open degenerate either. She seems content with being arm candy. And that's fine, you do you. I'm just describing where she's coming from. Personally, though, I'm not a fan of the plastic look. Now, Samira Khan got a shit ton of pushback from not only the tomboy lovers out there, but the Southern woman lovers. She reacted by calling them all gay. In her view, the guys that like Hannah Barron can't be straight men because they enjoy masculine women doing masculine things. But it wasn't all pushback. There were some right-leaning people, mainly in the red pill manosphere space, who agreed with her. For them, a proper woman isn't rough and tumble, she's feminine, and they echoed the same sentiment. Men who like tomboys are gay. But the pushback kept rolling in, and in response, Samira turned the entire thing into a long thread detailing her position. Lebanese women are literally perfect, and they're actually feminine, unlike estrogen-deficient American women who hold the record for the highest testosterone levels in the world. This post included a couple of videos of a very made-up woman, presumably someone Lebanese, getting ready for her wedding. This might actually be Samira, I can't tell. Doesn't really matter. High-value American men should become passport bros. Don't they deserve better than the filth they're limited to in their own country? Do you agree or disagree? What are your thoughts? This post included a video of Hannah in the water showing off a fish that she caught. Samira then said, "Melania Trump is the ideal," and posted a poll asking which women are the most physically attractive. When the American women won that poll, because of course they would, she replied by saying, "Liberate America from tomboy occupation." All the straight men cooming over her in the replies would be embarrassed to be seen with her in public. Imagine her being your date to a formal event. Yikes. She then presented Taylor Hill as the quintessential American beauty. And hey, fair enough, she's a good-looking lady, whoever she is. But there's room for girls like this and girls like Hannah, surely. After all, remember what the patron saint of straight homosexuality said.
Yeah, I just really like girls.
And Samira just kept going with it. I find it very hard to believe that American men genuinely prefer the tomboy to the girly girl. Thoughts? I would love to learn more. It's almost like she's desperately fishing for the response she wants. She did eventually get that response from some people, though. One of the Red Pillar men posted a few more Hannah clips with captions in agreement with Samira. "Tomboys are not hot. I repeat, tomboys are not hot. Attraction to tomboys is homosexuality, and women shouldn't be working outside. What kind of man lets his woman work outside like a man?" Yeah, this guy is quite literally an Andrew Tate wannabe. It's always interesting to me to see two different sections of a big tent political movement like the right fight with each other over one specific topic they disagree on. This time, it's blue-collar ruralites versus city-dwelling red pillars. They'll likely vote the same way in the end, but they have vastly different values. Honestly, this whole discourse reminds me of the Sargon academic agent tomboy abs thing from a couple of years ago. There is probably something to their position, frankly. There's a big difference between a masculine man wanting a tomboy because she's a capable partner, and a man feminizing himself in prostration towards a masculinized woman. For some small percentage of the male population, that'll work out just fine. But most men don't actually want to be women, and a culture that funnels them towards a more feminine position is likely a culture they'll rebel against. It's just not in their nature. The extreme end of that anti-tomboy position, though, is obviously too far. Look at what the red pill community is promoting in their desperate attempt to not be feminine. Wanting a strong woman is homosexuality. Yeah, okay, this is basic anti-tomboy stuff. Same with the whole liking Asian women is gay thing, that's pretty common. Eating out your girlfriend is gay because you're placing yourself in a feminine position by serving her. Celebrating your engagement and your love for your new fiancé on social media is gay because it's too soft to be happy. A man having sex with too many women is gay because, get this, you eventually get tired of pussy and you have to explore. Yes, we are at the point where having sex with women is gay, fellas. Wait a minute, eating pasta on a date is gay? Hannah herself replied to all of this, with a video outlining that don't give a fuck country quasi-libertarian ethic that we all basically expected her to have.
Good morning, y'all. I don't have a Twitter. I did at one point, but my account got removed for whatever reason, and I just hadn't got around to making another account. But apparently I'm trending on Twitter right now because some girl, hey Meryl, some girl said that my accent should be illegal, women shouldn't do manual labor. Oh, what else did she say? American women are basically men, and she just said that I was not feminine. Ooh. And I would tell y'all this girl's name, but I can't remember it because I don't have a clue who she is. So that should tell you how relevant this person is. But I just think it's hilarious because I grew up as the weird kid in high school who hunted and fished too much because back then it wasn't cool for women to hunt or fish or the whole country lifestyle. And I'm so proud of all the women in the outdoors now who are making that more cool or popular. So proud of us. I think we're doing great. But I've been helping Dad build houses since I was 15. When I was a senior in high school, I taught kids how to weld in ag class. So I've done, not manual labor. When I think of manual labor, I think of what my dad does. I'm nowhere near that. I just help as much as I can, and I try. And it's fun. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot of blue-collar women out there who are also feminine. And so I just think that you should embrace your own individuality. You should be yourself. And don't worry about what anybody else said, because these folks talking about me and think they're going to offend me, that ship sailed a long time ago. I've been getting picked on my whole life. I grew up around men. Well, so don't be scared to build your own box and don't try to fit in anybody else's. Be your own person and you'll be happier in the long run because of that. And don't worry about what anybody else has to say. Hope y'all have a good one. Appreciate y'all.
Ironically enough, Hannah's position here is the individualist liberal one, despite being a rural conservative herself. And she's taking it up against Samira, who, while being very right-wing politically, lives a more modern lifestyle, living in the big city, not having kids or being a homemaker. When liberalism itself becomes the dominant culture being conserved by the conservatives, some strange political developments begin to occur. We all already know the more obvious one. Leftoids radicalize themselves off a cliff in a desperate attempt to never agree with those dreaded conservatives. But we're seeing a similar effect happen to the rightoids as well, where they claim that the cuck-servatives only serve to codify the gains of the progressive movement into the traditional canon. As a result, some of these rightoids abandon conservatism in favor of other ideologies, and the subsequent new right tends to deform itself based on this rejection of their own culture. Where this new right goes from this point is anyone's guess. They have open to them various flavors of fascism or post-fascism, monarchism or neo-reaction, libertarianism or just basic anti-globalist sentiment. I don't mean to imply that these various movements are all in cahoots with each other. They're definitely not. Rather, they're a set of various post-conservative possibilities that appear once liberal values are codified as conservative. And it's just really interesting to see this play out in an online conflict between a tomboy TikToker and a Twitter trophy wife. And speaking of the left, due to the social media bubble effect, this story mostly didn't cross over into leftist spaces on the internet. This remained primarily a right-wing viral story. But I did see at least one big tweet by a leftist talking about it. Taking HRT and changing your sex will never make you a man, but apparently building a house will? Incredible. This got me thinking. There is a radical, small but growing segment of transactivism that also treats tomboys like they're men. They're well known enough on the internet that you often see memes like this, where tomboys are being hypnotized by global homo into being trans men and transitioning. Save the Tomboys is at least partially a meme, but there is truth to it. The most mask-off takes tend to come from small trans accounts, saying stuff like, tomboys are the grossest fucking aesthetic, either transition to male or step out. There's also a similar push for femboys to transition too. The idea here is that if you're a tomboy or a femboy, aka a masculine woman or a feminine man, you can't just be those things. Those are necessarily intermediary identities on the path towards transitioning, and if you've stalled out there, you need to be pushed along towards what the trans activists believe to be your true goal. This is all bullshit, of course. You can actually just be a masculine woman or a feminine man. We figured this out back in the 2000s, and it's why my generation's understanding of gender nonconformity is vastly superior to the current one. All the jokes that we told about it aside, we simply left people alone to do what they wanted. Part of this is a media analysis conversation, where tomboy characters are being rewritten or being retranslated to be trans. But it's not just that. In 2019, Vox published an article about how transing the tomboy wasn't happening. That was just a dangerous alt-right conspiracy theory. But in 2020, Prospect magazine spoke about NHS data in the UK on the topic, finding that there's been a very sharp rise of teenage girls who want to transition, get on testosterone, have their boobs removed, be trans men. Since then, there's been a string of female detransition horror stories. I'm sure you've at least seen a few. A new one seems to go viral like once a month. The stories are all pretty similar. Teenage girl, tomboy, generally in the 14 to 16-year-old range. Sometimes they read online about similar experiences to them and come to believe that they're trans. Sometimes they've been sexually assaulted and come to believe that if they were a man, it wouldn't happen to them. They get fast-tracked to hormones and surgery, often with only a few consultations by very affirming doctors, and then very quickly come to regret their decision. Feminization hormones for males are significantly more reversible than masculinization hormones for females. For males, going on estrogen will lower your sex drive, soften your skin, and redistribute some of your body fat, all of which are temporary. Long-term effects only kick in after you've been on HRT for a while, and they can generally be fixed with surgery like breast growth. For females, though, testosterone can result in hair loss on your head, hair gain on your face, and your voice deepening, none of which are reversible after going off the hormones. And there's no real way to fix these issues surgically. In short, MTF is more reversible than FTM, which is why it's incredibly reckless to take a tomboy and tell them that they're actually a trans man. There are so many women out there who were tomboys as a kid, who played with boys' toys and video games, who were rough and tumble, who preferred to be friends with boys in their class rather than girls, who were athletic and energetic, who hated it when their boobs started to come in, not because they wanted to be boys, but because they hated the idea of male sexual attention. Or they hated that at least some of their athletic prowess was going to be taken from them by age as their body feminized and their peers' bodies masculinized. None of this means that they were trans, and now that they're adult women, they overwhelmingly report relief that they weren't kids right now, as they most certainly would have been pushed down a trans path by all of the affirming progressive adults around them. The people who claim that you can tell that somebody is trans or hell that they're gay from childhood as an outside observer, they're frankly full of shit. Yes, gay or trans people generally report knowing that they were gay or trans at a very young age. But when, say, a little girl is 3 or 4 years old and she decides to play with fire trucks instead of dolls, does that mean that she's actually a trans boy? Does it mean she's a lesbian? Does that mean that she's a tomboy? Or does that mean that she just wants to play with a truck right now? The progressive analysis of this situation, ironically enough, relies on the very gender stereotypes they claim to reject. In actuality, only the kid themselves knows, and they'll only be able to tell you when they're older. Until then, you should just leave them be. I'm bringing all of this up because to me, this looks like the horseshoe effect happening once again. You've got two very politically different groups of people who are enemies in all respects. Red pill sex essentialists on the right and radical trans activists on the left, who nonetheless arrive at the same position, that tomboys are actually just men. The big difference between them is that the trans activists demand that all gender nonconformity be brought under the umbrella of their community and activism, erasing the tomboy identity in the process, while the red pillars despise the tomboy for not being feminine enough, and that the tomboy status as a man is based on men's latent homosexual attraction to them. Think back to that list of red pillar anti-tomboy takes from earlier. How many of these also apply to some type of leftist? The whole dating petite Asian girls makes you gay thing is something I've heard many fat activists say. The person who says it's soft to be happy? Well, that brings us back around to Joe Cat's straight homosexuality. An academic agent's take on tomboys sounds almost exactly like progressive logic.
The woman is built like a man. The man is a little snake wimp on his knees in the classic blowjob position, and to cap it all off, she's holding his head. There's even a variant where she calls him little boy. This isn't some one-off response This is a cultural phenomenon big enough to be a meme. But it should be clear that the tomboy abs is a gateway to fantasies of complete gender reversal. This young man wants to put himself in the position of a teenage girl serving a bigger and more masculine man. He is abdicating his responsibility as a man and asking the woman to be the man in his place. In other words, he is verbalizing his desire to be feminine, to become a woman.
Put simply, both of these camps view tomboys the same way, but the trans activists want to masculinize them, while the red pillars want to feminize them. The issue ultimately is that they're both wrong. Tomboys are women. And jokes aside, being a woman who's interested in traditionally masculine things doesn't make you a man. The red pillars are fundamentally incorrect here. Those traditional gender roles, where women did comparatively more leisurely homemaking labor, never truly existed outside of the upper class. Historically, most women helped out on the farm. They did menial labor, they got dirty, just like the men did, because it didn't matter that men were better at it. It was all hands on deck all the time. Sex-segregated labor, where women get to enjoy being indoors while the man brings home the bacon, that is a product of modern prosperity. And the trans activists are fundamentally incorrect as well, because the history of women is one where millions upon millions of low-status women did menial labor alongside low-status men all across history. If having those interests makes you trans, then that would mean that most women in human history were actually closeted trans men, and that's fucking retarded. As always, the liberal centrist ideal, the golden mean, is the correct one here. The two extremes arrive at the same flawed position, when the actual truth is that we're all better off when we let people drift towards their natural proclivities. It's not oppressive if a woman chooses a traditional life over a more feminist one, and it's not degenerate if they choose the opposite either. Plus, tomboys are hot.